Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. Before continuing, please review the legal disclaimer provided in the comment section of this video and make sure to see the video till the end to get a full understanding of how it all works. On this channel, we share practical guidance on visa processes, immigration pathways, investment and citizenship options, and related topics to help you make informed decisions. If you are unsure about your visa options or planning your next step, consider subscribing and enabling notifications so you stay updated with the latest developments. Imagine this. You finally decide to visit the most mysterious destination on Earth. Antarctica, the white continent, a frozen wilderness at the edge of the world, towering icebergs, massive glaciers, penguins everywhere, whales surfacing beside your ship, endless snowfields, silence unlike anywhere else on Earth, no cities, no permanent population, no normal airports, no borders in the traditional sense. Just one of the last truly wild places left on this planet. You start researching your dream expedition. Cruise ships, polar flights, luxury expeditions, icebreaker journeys, camping on Antarctic snow, kayaking through floating ice. Then suddenly, confusion. Do you need a visa? Who controls Antarctica? Can anyone go there? Can you travel independently? What permits are required? Can you just buy a ticket and enter? And here is the shocking truth. Most people completely misunderstand how Antarctica travel actually works, because Antarctica is not a normal country. And in this complete masterclass, you are going to learn everything, not from a New Zealand perspective, not from one country's viewpoint, but from a true global perspective based on the latest Antarctic tourism rules, expedition procedures, environmental regulations, and international travel systems in 2026. In this video, we are going to cover whether Antarctica has a tourist visa, who controls Antarctica, how Antarctic permits actually work, why Antarctica is different from every other destination on Earth, how expedition approvals happen, how cruise tourism works, what the Antarctic Treaty really means, the biggest mistakes travelers make, what environmental rules visitors must follow, and what smart Antarctic travelers do differently. Stay until the end because there is one massive misunderstanding involving Antarctica visas, permits, and cruise operators that confuses millions of people worldwide every single year. Let's begin. First, let's understand the single most important fact about Antarctica. Antarctica is not a country. Repeat that again. Antarctica is not a country. It does not have a traditional government like France, Japan, Canada, or Australia. It does not issue a normal tourist visa like most countries. And this is where almost everyone becomes confused immediately. People search online for Antarctica tourist visa, Antarctica embassy, Antarctica immigration office. But Antarctica does not work like a normal nation. Instead, Antarctica is governed through an international agreement called the Antarctic Treaty System. G.E.M.S. This treaty manages activities in Antarctica and focuses heavily on environmental protection, scientific cooperation, peaceful use, strict tourism regulation, and preservation of one of the most fragile ecosystems on Earth. G.E.M.S. Now here comes the major twist. You usually do not apply for an Antarctica tourist visa the way you would apply for a visa to the United States, Schengen Europe, or the UK. Instead, Antarctica travel usually operates through authorized expedition operators, cruise companies, government permissions, environmental authorizations, and treaty-based regulations. That changes everything. Now, let's answer the biggest question people ask. Do tourists actually need permission to visit Antarctica? The answer is yes, but the process depends heavily on your nationality, your departure country, your expedition operator, and how you plan to visit Antarctica. For most tourists, the permissions and environmental approvals are handled by the expedition company itself. Gov.uk. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings worldwide. People think they personally apply for an Antarctica visa. Usually, they do not. Most tourists travel through organized expedition operators that already operate under Antarctic treaty rules and environmental authorization systems. Australian Antarctic Division. Now let's discuss how most people actually reach Antarctica. This is extremely important. Most Antarctica tourists do not fly directly to Antarctica. Most travel through expedition cruises departing from places like Argentina, Chile, sometimes Australia, sometimes New Zealand, and occasionally specialized polar flight programs. The most famous route is through Ushuaia in Argentina across the Drake Passage toward the Antarctic Peninsula. And here is something critical. Even though Antarctica itself does not issue traditional visas, you may still need visas for the countries you transit through before reaching Antarctica. This destroys many travel plans every year. For example, if your expedition departs from Argentina, you may need an Argentina visa depending on your nationality. If you transit through Chile, you may need Chile entry permission. So Antarctica travel planning actually starts with the gateway countries first. Now let's discuss expedition operators. This is one of the most important decisions in your entire Antarctica journey. Most legitimate Antarctica tourism companies are associated with organizations that follow strict Antarctic environmental and operational guidelines. Antarctic Treaty. And here is something important. Antarctica tourism is heavily regulated environmentally. Why? Because Antarctica is considered one of the most fragile environments on Earth. Environmental protection rules are extremely strict. Tourism operators must comply with international environmental standards, visitor limits, wildlife protection rules, and operational guidelines. Australian Antarctic Division. Now let's discuss one of the biggest myths on the internet. Many people believe Antarctica is completely forbidden to ordinary tourists. Wrong. Tourism to Antarctica is legal and happens every year, but it is tightly managed and environmentally controlled. And here is where things become interesting. You cannot simply behave however you want in Antarctica. There are strict rules about wildlife interaction, waste management landing procedures, protected areas, biosecurity group sizes, environmental contamination, and even how close you can get to animals like penguins and seals. Australian Antarctic Division. Now let's discuss something many travelers never realize. Antarctica tourism is not ordinary tourism. It is expedition travel. That means operators expect travelers to understand the risks: extreme weather, medical isolation, remote locations, no normal rescue systems, dangerous seas, unpredictable conditions. Everything about Antarctica is extreme, and here is something critical. Emergency evacuation in Antarctica can become incredibly difficult and extremely expensive. That is why strong medical and evacuation insurance is absolutely essential. Not optional, essential. Travel. Now let's discuss one of the biggest realities of Antarctica travel: cost. Antarctica is expensive, very expensive, and this surprises many people. This is not a normal vacation destination. It is one of the most logistically difficult tourism destinations on Earth. Ships, ice-strengthened vessels, polar crews, environmental compliance, specialized equipment, remote operations. All of this creates enormous operational costs. Budget travelers often underestimate Antarctica pricing completely. Now let's discuss how permits actually work. This is where people become confused again. Under the Antarctic Treaty System, treaty member countries are responsible for regulating and authorizing activities connected to their citizens organizations, vessels, or expeditions. Australian Antarctic Division. That means expedition companies often coordinate permits and environmental approvals through the relevant national authorities connected to their operations. For ordinary tourists traveling with organized expeditions, these permissions are usually handled behind the scenes. But here's the important part. Independent travel to Antarctica becomes much more complicated. Very complicated. If someone attempts a private expedition, yacht voyage, independent aircraft operation, or unsupported travel, authorities may require environmental impact assessments, contingency plans, insurance documentation, safety planning, waste management planning, rescue capability evidence, and extensive authorization procedures. Australian Antarctic Division. This is why almost all tourists travel with established operators. Now let's discuss environmental rules. This is one of the most fascinating parts of Antarctica travel. Before landing in Antarctica, many tourists go through strict biosecurity procedures: boot cleaning, clothing inspections, equipment sanitization. Why? Because introducing foreign organisms into Antarctica is taken extremely seriously. Australian Antarctic Division. Even tiny biological contamination can threaten Antarctic ecosystems. And here is something many tourists do not realize. You are not supposed to disturb wildlife. No touching penguins, no feeding animals, no chasing wildlife for photographs, no collecting rocks or natural souvenirs. Everything is tightly controlled to protect the environment. Australian Antarctic Division. Now let's discuss landing restrictions. This shocks many travelers. Large ships carrying over certain passenger limits face restrictions on landings in Antarctica. Gov UK. And in many locations, only limited numbers of visitors may go ashore at once. Guides supervise movements. Landing times are controlled. Wildlife distances are regulated. Everything is managed carefully to reduce environmental impact. Umweltbundesamt. Now let's discuss one major misunderstanding involving Antarctica visas. People often ask, if Antarctica is not a country, does that mean no passport is needed? Wrong. You absolutely still need a valid passport for Antarctica travel, because you are traveling internationally through gateway countries and international ports. Reddit. And depending on your route, you may need visas for transit countries even if Antarctica itself does not issue traditional visas. Now let's discuss travel seasons. This is extremely important. Antarctica tourism mainly happens during the Southern Hemisphere summer, generally from around October through March. Why? Because winter conditions become extraordinarily harsh. Many regions become inaccessible. Sea ice expands. Temperatures become extreme. Darkness dominates huge parts of the continent. This is not a year-round mainstream tourism destination. Now let's discuss one of the most important sections of this entire video: the biggest mistakes Antarctica travelers make. This section alone could save your expedition. Number 1 is misunderstanding the visa situation. Antarctica itself usually does not issue traditional tourist visas, but gateway country visas may still be required. Number 2 is booking with questionable operators. This is dangerous. Antarctica is not a place for poorly organized expeditions. Safety standards matter enormously. Number 3 is underestimating medical risks. Medical facilities in Antarctica are extremely limited. Emergency evacuation may be delayed by weather or geography. Strong insurance matters massively. Number 4 is ignoring environmental rules. Antarctica is heavily protected environmentally. Violations can create serious consequences. Number 5 is underestimating physical conditions. Drake Passage crossings can be rough, very rough. Cold conditions can become extreme. Mobility challenges matter during landings. This is not a casual beach vacation. Now let's discuss something many people ask online. Can you travel independently to Antarctica? Technically, in some cases, yes, but realistically, it becomes extremely difficult, expensive, and heavily regulated. Private expeditions may require complex authorization systems, contingency planning, environmental approvals, and extensive logistical preparation. Gove UK. That is why the overwhelming majority of visitors travel with organized expedition operators. Now let's discuss one important psychological reality. Antarctica changes people. Many travelers describe it as one of the most emotional and transformative experiences of their lives. The silence, the scale, the isolation, the wildlife, the raw power of nature. It feels different from normal tourism, and that is why Antarctica tourism continues growing globally despite the extreme cost and difficulty. Reddit. Now let's discuss one important controversy. Some people argue tourism itself threatens Antarctica's fragile environment. Others argue responsible tourism increases awareness and support for Antarctic conservation. Reddit. This debate continues globally. But one thing is clear. Modern Antarctic tourism is heavily focused on environmental protection compared to most tourism sectors. Now let's discuss what smart Antarctica travelers do differently. They prepare early, very early. Popular expeditions can sell out far in advance. They choose reputable operators. They understand environmental responsibilities. They buy strong evacuation insurance. They prepare physically for rough conditions. And they understand Antarctica is not ordinary tourism. It is expedition travel into one of the harshest environments on Earth. Now, let's answer some common questions people ask. Can anyone visit Antarctica? Many people can through organized expeditions depending on passport and transit country requirements. Do you need a visa for Antarctica? Usually not in the traditional sense, but you may need visas for gateway countries, and expedition permissions are still required through treaty systems and operators. Can you live in Antarctica? Not as a normal civilian resident in the traditional sense. There are research stations and temporary personnel, but Antarctica has no permanent native population or conventional immigration system. Can you travel independently? In limited situations, yes, but it becomes extremely difficult and heavily regulated. Can tourists walk on Antarctica? Yes, many expedition cruises include supervised landings depending on weather and conditions. Can you fly to Antarctica? Yes, some specialized expeditions use flights, though cruises remain the most common tourist option. And finally, here is the biggest truth about Antarctica travel. Antarctica is not really about tourism in the normal sense. It is about experiencing the last great wilderness on Earth, a place where nature still feels bigger than humanity, a place where environmental protection matters more than luxury, a place that reminds people how small we really are. So if Antarctica is on your dream travel list for 2026, start preparing early, research carefully, choose responsible operators, and understand that this is not just another vacation. It is one of the rarest travel experiences available anywhere on this planet. Because one honest and well-prepared application is far more powerful than a thick folder full of random paperwork, and you have come to the right place to get all your visa applications sorted in a hassle-free and professional manner. We can help you to get the entire process done correctly and make your dream trip to any destination in the world easier than you think. Make sure to get in touch with is on our WhatsApp mobile numbers. No matter which part of the world you're in, and do subscribe, like, and share our channel to get many more interesting updates. Thank you for watching and have a safe journey. Call us now on +64 221 786 007 or +91 737 86 00791.